My name is Grace. I'm 24 years old, and this is my story. So I feel like it's not really an event that happened, but more like an experience that happened. And so junior year, I finally found someone I was interested in, and I wanted to date them, and started a friendship first, and they would tell me oh, you're amazing, you're beautiful, all this other stuff. And then come to find out, he's like, but I just want to be friends. Then he just jumps into a relationship with someone else a couple weeks later, after I had my heart broken thinking we were gonna be something. And I think that really impacted how I viewed myself, how I view future relationships, after I already had my mindset most part that I wasn't even gonna get in a relationship in high school, and this was the one person I thought, oh, maybe I break that rule for. And I feel that's just something that no one really talks about, of how other influences when you're so young, because 16 is you're a baby still, and how someone telling me that I'm so amazing, but they didn't want to be with me, kind of tore me down. And I started beating myself up about it, and started thinking oh, maybe I'm really not that great if they don't want to be with me, and maybe I'm not beautiful if they can't see themselves with me. And it really I had to learn how to love myself and choose relationships and figure out the red flags and green flags of someone you want to be with.
How did you learn and grow from that situation?
I really had to take a step back and figure out the things I liked about myself, the things I liked doing. I had to learn to not be so codependent, because we're all really brought up thinking that we need to rely on other people for things, and the way that we're taught it is it's life or death if we don't have someone. So many people jump into relationship after relationship, and I had to really take some time and be independent, so in my next relationship I wasn't so codependent, and if they said something, I knew it wasn't about me. It could have been them projecting, or it was more toxic and we need to take a step back. And when it was a good relationship, you're not codependent, you're interdependent, so that you both have your own things, but at the end of the day you come together and you grow together. Because now, years later, having 2 kids, and I'm trying to raise them a certain way, I realized that your 16-year-old or your high school mindset of how relationships should be really stems with how you're brought up and how you grow seeing other relationships around you. And the relationships could be your friendships influence you, or your relationships with your teachers or people you look up to really impact every sort of relationship, whether it's romantic or not, in your life.
What advice would you give to that 16-year-old that is in a similar situation?
I would say that yes, you need to figure out the things you like and who you want to be with, but you also really need to take this time while you're young and focus on yourself. And I was told that going into high school, don't do relationships, just focus on yourself, figure out what you want to do for yourself. And I only listened to that up until junior year, and then I was everyone else is dating, I want that too. And I really should have taken the time and figured out who I was, because once you know who you are, everything is so much easier. Once I knew who I was, I didn't have to look for a relationship. The relationship found me. My fiance and I it just clicked. We just found each other, and from then on we are growing together, we're building together. And I just think when you're young, you really just need to focus on yourself.
And how did this situation affect you in school?
I was affected more like my personality and my motivation and my determination. I think I lost some of my drive when I was freshman, sophomore. I was like so focused in school, so focused in I want to do this, I want to do that. I was more optimistic and happier, and this kind of just destroyed all of that. Once I was in like a toxic friendship that I was trying to make a relationship, I got really depressed. I started like not eating, or when I was eating it was very disordered. Like I would like bingy, and then I would try to consume like I want to do this, like make my life way too busy to where I didn't have to focus on the parts that needed to be healed. And that's not good.
What advice would you give to that teacher that starts to notice that a particular student is seemingly depressed or not acting like themselves and suddenly just seems sad, quiet, not really communicating like they did before?
I think if a teacher notices that there's a complete change in personality in a kid in the class, and if they don't think they have the capacity to help them out and talk to them and try to get them to speak about how they're feeling, then they need to offer the kid like resources, because that's a big thing, that if someone thinks they can't help, they don't always give them resources to get help. And I definitely think like mental health is like a big thing in high school, and if a teacher's noticing something, they should speak up and pull the kid aside and try and talk to them or guide them to someone who can help them.
For that person that, you know, is 16 years old or around that age, that may feel secure and confident in who they are, and they feel like they're ready to start dating, maybe they look around, see their friends dating, and they feel confident, what advice would you give them as far as, you know, getting started with dating?
If you're ready to start dating, I would say take it slow and really get to know the person. Like, enjoy their company, go on dates, go to the movies, go bowling, go to the parks, go hiking together. Like, find out what you guys like, because if you find out that there's a big thing that you're serious about and they like could care less about it, like, don't continue it. You could just break it off there, instead of, oh, you jump into a relationship and you start doing like these grown things with them, and then all of a sudden you're getting your heart broken and devastated because you thought they were this person, but you really didn't get to know them. Because thought is imagining who they are or having expectations for them that they don't show that they actually are going to be that person.
What do you feel schools should teach in terms of sex ed and dating?
I think schools really need to focus a lot more on examples of healthy relationships, examples of how it looks to come together in a union, and it doesn't have to be marriage, but healthy together, because there's so much focus on sex and using protection and STDs and learning about you should do this and not that, and where you can get checked and all this other stuff, but they don't focus on healthy relationships. They don't focus on getting married, and that's something really big, because everyone in high school is like sleeping around and your parents are telling you not to, but then it's happening, like whether they know it's not, could be under their roof, could be just got a car, you're having it there, and you really need to slow down, because everyone's like, oh, like I want to be grown and I want to do this, but then everyone's getting their hearts broken, or they're having kids and they're like thinking they're going to stay together and they're not going to stay together, or you get pregnant and the guy leaves. And like personally, like that's what happened to me with my first child, and as soon as I found out I was pregnant, it wasn't in high school, but it was pretty close out of high school. I had no expectations of him staying, and he really said like, no, I'm not ready. So I mentally like knew like, okay, I'm gonna do this on my own. But maybe if there was in schools teaching the signs of red flags, I wouldn't have gone that far with him, and I would have waited until I was in a more stable relationship. And like I am now, like I'm engaged, and we still had a child before we got married. So, but now I have the promise of we're doing this together, like this, me and you, till death do us part. Like we know what we have because we talked about it beforehand. Like we really got to know each other. And I just feel like school really needs to teach more, and not just, oh, we know you're having sex, so let's do this. Like, no, like they need to get into like the mental and emotional aspect of relationships as well, and not just the physical aspects of it.